Hey friends, today I wanted to talk about something a little different. We're getting information about Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt from her daughter. Her daughter is putting out a new book, Ruby Franke's daughter. And the big question is, were Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt lovers? I've always thought so, personally. It seemed kind of obvious. Now, I won't really be talking in detail about Ruby Franke's children's experiences because for me, that kind of child abuse is just way too disturbing for my personal mental health to focus on. There are other content creators who do a great job on shedding light on some of the horrifics and also raising money for organizations that helped mitigate those sort of circumstances when they're discovered. That is wonderful, and I hope that more people can do it. I don't have the constitution for it. I do lighter commentary. So I won't be focusing on what actually happened. Some might say, but wait, you do videos on Gypsy Rose. Yes, I do. But I don't believe Dee physically abused her in the way that Gypsy claims. I believe that that was a case of emotional and mental abuse, the abuse of teaching Gypsy to be a criminal fraud. But I don't believe Dee chained her up or beat her. I just don't. Maybe I'll be proved wrong one day. And if that day comes, I'll apologize, but I just don't believe that. With Ruby Franke's kids, we know that there was physical abuse because her child, one of them, ran away, as anyone being abused should do, and the child's body showed that they had been physically taped up long enough for necrosis to begin on the flesh. That is so horrific. I personally cannot think about it too much for my own mental health, and I deeply hope that that child is getting all of the help and all of the therapy possible. So that being said, in talking about Ruby, I won't really be talking much about her children's experiences. I want to be commentating more on my thoughts about Ruby as a person, a horrible person, and her relationship with Jodi Hildebrandt, another horrible person. We're going to make some comparisons that some of y'all might find interesting. If you do, if you have any thoughts on them, differing or otherwise, y'all know I love discussion. Tell me in the comments. So I've heard a lot of people say, including Jodi's relative who did a wonderful interview, who seems to be just an excellent, beautiful person. They believed that most all of what Ruby did is 100% Jodi because it's Jodi's playbook and they've seen it before. They experienced it while living with their aunt. Now, while I 100% believe their experiences, I don't believe that Ruby only did this because of Jodi, and I don't even think that that's what this person was implying, but I just want to put that out there, that some people have kind of taken it that way, like whenever she said that is 100% Jodi, as if the implication was that Ruby is innocent, and I do not see it that way. I think I've seen enough clips of Ruby, even though I never watched the 8 Passengers channel, I've seen enough clips of her and her interactions with her children to believe, based on the evidence in front of my eyes, that it was always in Ruby to be violent and sadistic towards her children. I think she had that darkness in her. You can see it in her eyes. There's this sick pleasure whenever she breaks the kids down mentally and emotionally. And I do think she would have escalated without Jodi's influence, but clearly Jodi's delusions gave her a path and some kind of sick justification for really going in on the sadism that she was already demonstrating towards her children. Now, some might say, well, you don't know these people. You weren't there. You're just speculating. And that is correct. I don't know. But whenever people make themselves into public figures by showing us so much of their lives, we don't actually know them, but we have the right to observe what they show us and make judgment calls. If they didn't want judgment calls by observers to be made on their own actions, they should not attempt to make a living by being public figures. We see that so much. People put their whole lives out there for display, and then they're shocked that people have a vast array of opinions on what they showed. The polygamous Brown family from the Sister Wives show is another good example. They put their alternative lifestyle out there for the world, claiming that they were advocates for it, and they showed us over multiple seasons how it imploded for them. And we saw so many of the children that were born of this multi-person situationship neglected and miserable. One child was having a surgery and her father refused to be there because of his anger at the child's mom. And every time Kody is asked about his terrible treatment of the majority of his children, the response is usually some version of, I can't take their disrespect of me, and then ranting about how he doesn't deserve it and he won't stand for it. He basically seems to, in my opinion, hold his parental care and affection of his children hostage. The ransom to its release is that they must give him unconditional respect at all times. He tries to demand a level of respect that, in my opinion, his actions have never warranted. Now, in all the videos I've seen of Ruby, she does the same. Both of them having extreme alternative religious views is an interesting point to consider. I don't think that their extreme alternative religions cause their darkness. I think they simply find that environment enabling and lean towards it because they have an inner darkness and sadistic desires inside them. Something I wonder about a lot is that it seems like anyone who does have a mental condition or an inner darkness, that a condition that can exacerbate that and, cause them to really act out is living in a state of cognitive dissonance. Now, this is just me speaking from a high school education, a lot of reading, and some speculation. So if anyone's actually educated on this subject and wants to correct or inform me in the comments, please do. I beg more knowledge. I love it. But so cognitive dissonance, it is the state of psychological pain that a person finds himself in when they have a strong belief internally or mentally, but they do the complete opposite with their actions and they don't have it either in them or within their circumstances to reconcile the two. Ruby and Jodi both spoke very strongly against any kind of homosexuality in their Connexions videos and to Ruby's children. But in her new book, Ruby's daughter talks about her mother coming out of Jodi's bedroom late at night, and her mother's diary talks about having to do things to keep Jodi's affection. And to me, that all sounds like a relationship of lovers, not platonic friends. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. It's always been suspected just from the way that Ruby and Jodi acted. There was an energy there and there are actions there that always led people to suspect that they were actually lovers. Now, it seems like Ruby might have also been experiencing cognitive dissonance in the sense of being a hugely respected parenting family vlogger and knowing, because I feel like she had to know deep down that she was harming and hurting her kids and making them miserable and enjoying it. I feel like the way that she probably tried to reconcile that cognitive dissonance, uncomfortableness in her mind was by convincing herself that the children actually needed this, and Jodi would have been helpful for that. I think we see a similar cognitive dissonance in Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She deeply believes that she is a good girl. She says it every chance she gets, and she used to say it back in the day too. She even said it during her police interrogation for the unaliving of her mother, which she plans. She loves to say in her Lifetime show, "I'm just an average bear," and it shocks and enrages her whenever people refer to the fact that she pled guilty to second-degree unaliving of her mother, matricide. She doesn't identify with that. She identifies as a good girl who deserves sympathy. And when I heard Ruby Franke's court statement, contrived as it was to attempt to show a glimmer of responsibility and acceptance of her actions, it was couched in statements about how she really only wanted the best for her children, and she was deceived and misled about what the best actually was. And we hear a similar thing from Gypsy over and over and over that, she could never unalive someone, never. And that's why Nick's in trouble, not her. All she wanted was to be free and to get away and not have her mom cut her throat. But we have evidence of Nick over and over and over trying to get her to run away and her refusing. So, yeah. But with the situation is different in the sense that Ruby's accomplice, Jodi, she was as equally sadistic as Ruby, maybe even more so, and she was not mentally impaired and hesitant like Gypsy's accomplice, Nick Godejohn. That is a massive, massive difference. So on that note, y'all, I wanted to let you know that I have purchased Ruby Franke's daughter's book. It's called In the House of My Mother, and I'm going to be reviewing it here. Definitely not going to be reading the most disturbing parts of the child abuse, as we have talked about before. It's just, I don't want that in my mind. But we're going to read about Ruby and Jodi. Even though I don't want to know the horrific details of what Ruby and Jodi did, I am curious about what makes people like this tick, what is on their inner mind, and what are the similarities we see with other criminals, other fraudsters, other grifters who may not be going quite as far yet, but Should we suspect? Should we be suspicious? Anyway, y'all let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what similarities you see, or if you think I'm completely off my rocker, you can let me know that too. I don't mind. Talk to y'all soon. Bye.